Last time on the Ables, our quote-unquote heroes finally found a way to get into their quote-unquote final battle. After much faffing around and realizing that help from adults is not coming because all the other adult superheroes are LARPing right now, our hero kids head back to a besieged town to try to save all of the grown-ups. Oh no, they've pulled an old switcheroo and they were on to the villain's plans all along. Can they save the day, or will our main character turn out to be the actual supervillain? Oh snap, my hair is red now. Nice. We're back here with chapter 30 of this bullshit. It's been weeks since I read it because I was so angry with the plot twist. I just didn't want to read any more of this fucking book, but we're very close to the end, so I have to keep going. Chapter 30 is called The Real Plan, as you recall. And it turns out that our main characters realized that Chad was a traitor all along. Which, to be fair, they do have a mind reader, so... Really, that's on Finch. So they became suspicious. Roughly the time that I became suspicious, like, I was suspicious of Chad possibly all along, but there was that mysterious how did Chad end up in the middle of the street to trip Donnie, and now all I can picture is Chad just like getting down on all fours in front of Donnie like he's gonna trip him, like a classic school bully type situation. But unfortunately Chad also kind of got like ground into the pavement a little bit, so that wasn't very fun for him. Of course, if that was your first clue that Chad was evil, then your mind reader wasn't actually helping you at all. Aha, and our main character got his light bulb moment when Chad bully tripped the purse snatcher in the park. So, of course it had to be our main character who realized that Chad was evil all along. Of course, it couldn't be their friend who can literally read minds. The clunky sentences live on. Like, what do you mean? I didn't really do well with vague concepts. I needed specifics. What exactly was strange? That's what do you mean means. You need a writing group, Jeremy Scott. You need a writing group to go to, and they can slap some sense into you and be like, why are you writing like this? So finally they bring up their concerns to the mind reader, who's like, yeah, I have been noticing weird things about his thoughts, so like, whatever. So after they realized that Chad's thoughts were weird, almost as though he was trying to block the mind reader, then Bentley, like, plants a fucking tracking device on him. Like, these kids are going to be supervillains. There are so many contenders in this book for most pointless paragraph, but this one's in the running. And I only had a small number of enemies at 12 years old. One, well, two, I suppose, if you're counting Steve. But honestly, no one was counting Steve as an enemy at this point in the game. There was no one else Chad could be working for other than Finch. What is this paragraph? What is it doing here? Kill it! Kill it with fire! And of course, because we were not privy to this information earlier, we are now being spoon-fed it in the most telly and uninteresting way we possibly could. Aha! When our main characters were going to the cornfield, which, as I recall, we the readers were privy to, they did something else than what the main character told us. The main character has lied to us, the reader, in his own point of view. And I absolutely hate when people do that. Maybe you like it, maybe you think it's cool. Like, I'm in this character's point of view, but now he's even lying to me, and it's an unreliable narrator and all that stuff. But I think there's a big difference between an unreliable narrator and one who just omits, like, huge chunks of the plot just so it can be a twist later. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, I think there's a difference. This just seems like it's only there so it can be like, ho, plot twist, gotcha.
Thanks, I hate it.
So while they were supposedly in the cornfield, which we, again, I believe were privy to, their journey to the cornfield, they were actually doing something else. They were actually going to talk to that grumpy old superhero who doesn't help anyone, Mr. Charles. So Mr. Charles, they ask him for help and he says no. And our main character says the most redundant sentence I could think of. It was a fairly simple statement, just one word at all, and its meaning seemed pretty straightforward. What the fuck, Jeremy Scott? I know I'm being very crabby with him today, but I'm very upset that he pulled that bullshit on us. We watched them go to the cornfield, and now the main character's like, oh, I lied to you, reader. We actually went to this guy's house. wouldn't it have been cooler to go to this guy's house and watch them do this and be like, huh, wonder why we're going here and try to recruit this guy? What does the main character know? Like, that could be a little bit of something. It'd be like, okay, he's hiding something from us, but what? Instead of blatantly giving us a false scene and then coming back and being like, no, this is what I really did. Everything about this man was old. Well, that's usually how that works. You don't, like, age in stages. Well, my nose is old, but not my feet. My feet are fine. Oh yes, call him old man. That is certain to get him to be your friend. This just doesn't make sense. I think you're scared of everything anymore. What does that mean? I think you're scared of everything anymore. Do you mean I think you're scared of everything now? Or you're not scared of anything anymore? Which kind of typo are we dealing with? This is just a very standard yelling at the old man and guilting him until he decides to help them. They're very self-righteous, these 12-year-olds, being all like, I might die tonight, and I'm not afraid because I know I'm doing the right thing, and you're a cowardly old man.
Calm down, now get back to your seat. I'll take care of this. Calm down. Calm down. Get a hold of yourself.
Doctor, you're one on the phone. Everything's gonna be all right.
So they find out a little bit more about, like, Finch's past. They show him the picture, and they're like, which one is Finch? Because he's got a scar now, so we can't tell, apparently. And they're like, was he the leader of your club? Because they formed essentially like the Marauders. Again, this book is stealing everything from Harry Potter. I feel like Jeremy Scott was just like, how can I make a really popular book? Instead of being like, I want to write the book that I want to read, or I have this great story I want to tell, he was like, how can I make the most popular book? I know. What if Harry Potter but superheroes? It's finding out about the Marauders, essentially, and it seemed that Finch was actually the wormtail of the group, not the James, not a leader. Of course, because bad guys, they're always the, like, snivelly little Weasley ones. Oh man, they're doing a full wormtail treatment. He's like, but I doubt that the guy that you've been dealing with is actually Finch, because Finch is dead. So is it going to turn out that this is Finch and he pulled the wormtail and he's still alive? Or is this guy just pretending? This is very silly plot point. But he pulls the photo out of the frame and he rips it, presumably so that one of the people in the picture will have a tear down the middle of their face. And he's like, well, I'll be damned. And that's when the chapter ends. So, honestly, that other than the fact that he had to do the tear to actually recognize somebody, it's a good hook at the ending for him to be, like, recognizing someone finally. Couldn't you just had him put his finger over somebody's face to, like, obscure half of it or something and be like, But no, he's got to actually tear the photo. And I guess I'm probably just going to keep reading because I'm, like, so close to the end of this book. I don't know if I'm going to finish it today. But, wow, yeah, this next chapter is kind of long, so let's go, I guess. This next chapter, 31, is called Reunion. We're back in the present, and they're about to spring their plan. So they convince Mr. Charles, somehow, I guess by showing him the photo, and he comes out of the trees and puts up his bubble. I presume because he realizes that the person that he thought he had, like, killed or imprisoned. I forget what happened in that big climactic battle that happened in the past. He realizes that Finch is that person who is not dead / imprisoned, and he's come back for more. So now Mr. Charles is like, fine, I'll use my powers one last time to truly defeat that guy. So he calls him Thomas. Mr. Charles calls Finch Thomas. And I legitimately don't remember who Thomas was. I hope the book reminds me, because tell me, for once I want you to tell me something, book. Just, who the fuck was Thomas? Finch is absolutely shocked that Mr. Charles is still around, but he was literally, like, right next to Mr. Charles's house in that cornfield, being a fire Godzilla. So it's really just a failure on Finch's part to do any research. Aha! Finch actually, oh, here's the twist. Finch is our main character's grandfather, who supposedly Mr. Charles betrayed all those years ago, but he's not, and he's back. Chairs! Wait, so he didn't tell the main character that? Because the main character is just as shocked by this revelation as we are, Even though he must have, like, he ripped the picture and then he didn't say anything. He was just like, yes, I will help you. And the main character didn't go, well, who is it? So Mr. Charles is being all cocky, like, I have you now. And then Finch is like, yes, we're in a no power zone, but my guys have guns. So, yeah. Yeah? We could have taken out Finch that way too, to be honest. And then our main character does this. A switch somewhere in my head flipped, and I somehow skipped ahead a few years in development of my powers. Instantly I knew. I just knew in the core of my being that I could stop them, could control their weapons with my powers. What? I mean, yeah, you do have telekinetic powers or whatever, but, like, of course the main character just is like, suddenly I became real good at it. And, of course, because it's our main character, and what else would he do? He doesn't just take their guns, pluck all their guns away and bring them over by him. No, he makes them all aim their guns at themselves. Because our main character is a little bit sadistic. And then, after he scares them by making them aim their guns at themselves, after they've sufficiently pissed their pants, then he takes all their guns and yeets them off over the school. I'm not entirely sure, because obviously Mr. Charles is projecting his NPZ field not over our main characters, so our main character can in fact use his power. But can you use a power that's long distance on someone that is inside an NPZ field? Obviously you can, but it's just kind of like, it seems like a convenient oversight that you could stand outside an NPZ field and like use your power on somebody stuck inside one. Seems like that could be exploited more than it is right now. The character is saying that it was the fear or knowledge of imminent death that finally kicked his powers into gear. But I guess he wasn't afraid enough for his life when he was back in that cornfield and Fire Godzilla was stomping around. Like, he's been in danger before. And also, I felt nothing in this moment. Like, he was explaining that there were guns drawn on him and he knew that the people were going to shoot him and his friends and old man Charles over there. But it was so dispassionately written that I didn't feel like this fear was any different or any worse or even really present until I'm being told that it was the fear that is driving him to new heights of superpowerdom. Apparently this is a really impressive display of his powers though, because even his grandfather's like, "Ah, yes, you are so powerful." And Mr. Charles is like, "You're dumb, Finch. You're dumb if you think that this kid is the one who does all. He's totally not." And I'm like, yeah, okay. I could see that being a twist where it turns out our main character is not the super uber hero. I'm curious who is going to be the super uber hero, and I'm thinking it's probably going to end up being the little brother. Of course, Bentley's capture didn't happen. I figured out pretty quickly when the main character revealed that he was lying to us, the reader, all the time. Also, Bentley wasn't really captured.
Surprise, motherfucker.
So they went to go rescue the prisoners, free all of the adult superheroes to help them, which, I mean, is a smart move. Honestly, this last bit, like, story-wise, just on a story level, not on an execution level, if somebody with better execution could rewrite this last bit isn't bad. There's stuff here. There's twists, there's turns, there's reveals, there's questions. And if somebody with a little bit more writing chops under their belt got their hands on this sequence, I think it could be really good. Of course, conveniently, even though we've always been in our main character's point of view, he is now sharing exactly what happened with Bentley, like complete with quotes from the guards and everything. If you've had a book that has been exclusively in one character's first-person point of view, I feel like in the last 2 chapters, you don't get to switch points of view all of a sudden. You gotta set up that precedent a little bit earlier. Probably a lot earlier. Can you suggest something urgently? I mean, I guess you can, but suggested sounds so just like, hey guys, maybe we should get out of here. But the kids have realized that the enemy has what appears to be a bomb in the middle of the prisoners.
Cool. Cool.
And we've switched back to the main character's point of view, where he's listening to old man Charles argue with his grandfather. With the main character's grandfather, not old man Charles's grandfather. Finch just said something scathing. For the first time, Mr. Charles seemed to lose his confidence for a bit, and his head lowered to the ground. I'm just picturing him just all of a sudden just laying right down. His head lowered to the ground? What is that? You mean he looked down or he lowered his head to the ground? Definitely means that he went and he's just laying on the ground now, cheek to dirt. And we switch back again to the boys who are trying to free the prisoners. Alright, I kind of hate this. I hate this awkward back and forth. A big problem that I'm having with this scene with the kids trying to save the prisoners is that Old Man Charles's null power zone is over them as well, so they can't use their superpowers. And this is a superhero book. So shouldn't the heroes win by using their superpowers? One would think it would be the point of The Ables, a story about disabled superheroes, that they would find a way to use their superpowers in a kick-ass manner. This whole book spends more time figuring out reasons that the kids shouldn't or can't use their powers than finding cool ways for the kids to use their powers. And I feel like if you don't want to use superpowers, then you probably shouldn't write a superhero book. Maybe that's just me. I'm just curious about this. And if it's there, it's subtle, and it's like, hey, good job. I don't know if it's there, or if I'm just imagining it. But Bentley seems to be struggling to come up with a good idea and answers right now. And I'm like, is this a thing? Like, his superpowers, his super smarts are his superpowers, so when he's in the NPZ, he's not super smart? It does make me wonder if in previous times where he was in a null power zone, he was not a genius. He did say some pretty genius things at school, where they are presumably always under the NPZ field, but it would be a subtle little touch if the author had that happen, that Bentley just became less of a genius sometimes. So, going back through essentially via the read-along, editing the read-along, and remembering all the scenes and remembering times when Bentley came up with ideas versus our main character coming up with ideas, unfortunately it doesn't look like this whole Bentley's not as smart when he's under an NPZ thing actually works in practice within the book. I'm sure the author would like to imagine that he's achieved that, but there were many times when Bentley should have been the genius one, the one coming up with the ideas, but he's not, even though there's no NPZ, because the main character needs to be the one to come up with the ideas. So it wasn't really executed well, mostly because the author wanted the main character to be the one with all of the best ideas most of the time. But if you read this book, you can look for it. So their plan is they make some noise, the guards come over, they hit the guards over the head with potted plants. Like this is a cartoon. You know what cartoons often have? Superheroes. You know what superheroes often have? Cool powers. And now we're back with the grandfather arguing with the Old Man Charles. Riveting. What? When Artemis knocked me off that roof, it might have been prudent for someone to go and check to make sure I was actually dead, don't you think? No one checked? Are you serious? This entire superhero world deserves everything it gets. A bad guy fell from a tower and no one checked on his body. I would have thought they would have found it, would have buried it, would have, I don't know, studied it in a lab. Like, no, there's just nothing. There's no explanation. These people just deserve everything they get. We briefly go back to the boys and their flower pot thing, and somehow when they picked up these flower pots, they did not realize that they were plastic and not ceramic. And so when they hit the guards on the head, the flower pots just like bounce off. These people deserve everything they get. Bentley's backup plan was everybody run. I really hope that it's the NPZ making him lose IQ points, because otherwise, what? Oh yeah, and one of them is blind. They sent one of the blind kids on this mission.
Can't you watch where you're...
No.
Right. Sorry.
That's great. And of course, our main character is using the guy who can, use the seeing laptop strategy, whatever. They need more than one mind reader so both the blind kids can see. But of course our hero needs him, because our hero is always more important. Blah, 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 you killed my mother, you're an inhuman bastard, blah, blah, blah. I was almost totally overwhelmed with some of the darkest and most powerful emotions I had ever experienced. What's that like? Would you like to show us what that's like? No? Just gonna tell us that those emotions are happening? Cool. I mean, legitimately, what is this kid waiting for? He hates this man more than anything. He doesn't view this man as a human, and he's come into his super telekinetic powers. Couldn't he just rip Finch in half? What's stopping him? He does, however, smash his grandfather into the brick wall of the school. So I guess he is just crazed and violent. He's 12, and he keeps slamming him into the concrete wall. Like, holy shit. And this does not feel satisfying. Like, I think this is supposed to be a satisfying culmination of, like, you have been watching this kid get ruthlessly bullied, essentially, by this supervillain the entire book, and his mom was killed, and all of this stuff. And it's supposed to be cathartic, watching him smash this bad guy into a wall, but it is just horrifying. Oh, he's gonna kill him. He's like, any last words? Henry, fucking Henry saves the day. Henry just pulled Philip's eyesight. And now Philip is talking to him in his head and is being like, this isn't you, man. You're not the kind of guy who brutally smashes old men against the wall repeatedly. Come on, man, see the light inside of yourself. This is supposed to be a great moment of, like, war within himself. And to be fair, our main character is, and has always been through most of this book, seemingly teetering right on the edge of being a supervillain, but I don't think in the way that good old Jeremy Scott meant for him to. Our main character says, we're just a bunch of kids with half powers and no idea how to use them. And he's like, we have no leader or anything. And then Henry says, you are our leader, Philip. You are. And that's, again, horrifying. Your leader is smashing someone into a wall. And you chose for your leader the kid who, like, uses you. Like, I think Henry has fucking Stockholm Syndrome, because Henry is nothing but a tool for our main character to be able to see. He's like, you suggested to form a team for the Super Sim. You chose the name, even if the story would serve as a historical significance of that name, whatever that means. You fought for our rights to participate and found a place for us to practice. You came up with a plan to treat Chad. So basically, because our main character was kind of bossy, he's their leader now. For the climax of this book, there's a lot of arguing and trying to convince people of things. Okay, sure. So for some reason, our main character forgot about Chad completely. After that whole, haha, Chad, bamboozled, we knew you were up to this all along, I just assumed that Chad was also caught in the NPZ. But no, apparently Chad was literally just standing there with our hero and his friends, watching the whole thing go down, even though we know that Chad is a bad guy now. And then Chad turned invisible and sneaked away and is now standing behind Mr. Charles with a gun. Aha! Okay, so it is true. Confirmed. The NPZ goes down, presumably because Mr. Charles has been shot or something. And Bentley is like, hey guys, I feel smarter. At least Chad was kind enough to just shoot Mr. Charles instead of standing around monologuing about it first. So for some reason, when they shoot Mr. Charles, all of the main character's powers go away, which was what Finch was doing. And it was just canceled out somehow by Mr. Charles's. I'm very confused how these power-free zones actually work. But apparently now how the turns have tabled, and our main character can't use his powers anymore, so right now he can't see. Oh, okay. One of the bad guys has healing abilities, so he just went over to go refill old evil grandpa's hit points. Okay, I don't understand how this works either. All of a sudden, Philip's vision comes back, and he's like, hey, Henry, are you doing that? And then he hears Finch's voice in his head saying, I'm doing that. But wouldn't he then be seeing whatever Finch was seeing and not seeing through his special glasses, which go to a computer, which is on Henry's lap? I am so confused. Yeah, even our author doesn't really know what's going on. I was somehow receiving a video feed of what my eyes would actually see if I weren't blind. It's implied that there is literally someone here who Finch is stealing the powers from, who has the ability to make blind people be able to see as though they weren't blind. That's their superpower that Finch is stealing. This whole thing is such a disaster. So apparently the bomb they saw is a 3-ton atomic bomb. Go hard or go home, I guess. Team 2 is acting like I expect superheroes to act in this world. They have their powers now, and Patrick has his super speed, and he runs into a closet, grabs a hose, a garden hose. They wrap up the 2 goons in 2 seconds flat and shove them into a closet. Like, that's what little kid superheroes are supposed to do, not fucking murder people. And that's the end of that chapter. Chapter 32 is called Unexpected Hero. So we'll maybe find out if our main character does manifest any powers, if somebody else has the powers. That's like the only twist we have left, really. I'm so mad, and I don't even know if I articulated any of that well, because this is just so confusing. Thanks for sticking with me. Okay guys, I'm here. I have tater tots. I have this book. Chapter 32, The Unexpected Hero. Who do you think is going to be the unexpected hero? Take bets right now. I think it's going to be the little brother, but it could be anyone at this point. I will say that some parts of this ending are not cliched, but the execution is terrible. Right away, we've got a huge coincidence without which the heroes would not win. Finch had been too cocky to consider any kind of prison break a possibility, and had therefore only activated his own NPZ over the field, ignoring the school completely. If he hadn't have done that, what the fuck would have happened? So obviously all the adults are here now. I don't understand how this world works. I do not understand. So there was a hero imprisoned by Finch who had the NPZ power. And when that hero came over to our main character, that hero's power overrode Finch's. And I just don't understand, like, which NPC gets priority. Is it whoever's stronger? Why wouldn't Finch be stronger? But apparently our heroes can use their powers again, because this guy's null power zone cancels out Finch's null power zone. Again, thank goodness there just fucking happened to be a guy imprisoned there with that ability. Dad, Finch's grandpa. He's been the one behind it all along, I said, rather urgently. The main character said we didn't have time to stop for every new arrival and retell the story at this point. Are you sure? I mean, that's what you've been doing this entire fucking book. Are you sure we can't just hear it all again in the most boring way possible? Apparently, Finch is doing all of this, destroying the fucking city with his big, crazy 3-stage bomb that was just explained to me, just to make Philip manifest his powers. All Finch wants in the whole world is to make Philip manifest his powers. Get a hobby. Apparently, Finch got his hands on a fucking nuke. Not only are there superheroes and supervillains that the humans don't know about, but like one of them has a nuke. Horrifying implications. The book. And Finch is, of course, because he's like the crazy bad guy, he's like, and if you don't have powers, well then we'll all just die together in a giant mushroom cloud. Ah, ha, 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 ha. It's worth it. It's not worth it to live if you don't have powers, so we'll just all explode. Okay. He's going back and forth with Finch, and I'm just fucking skimming it, because it's exactly what you expect it to be. So, he can't talk the bad guy down, and the bad guy pushes the bomb button. There was a large rumbling explosion. It shook the ground on which we stood. I think we can surmise, if you just say it shook the ground, that it's shaking the ground you're standing on. Honestly, as I'm sitting here watching things explode and I don't care about anyone, this final battle between superheroes is all about who has the power that cancels out everybody else's powers. And that's just not an exciting superhero battle. You go to superheroes to see them use their powers. It's just so boring. I hope powers are happening soon. Now, this might be a good time for our hero to be blind again, so he can really rise up and do the super awesome, cool climactic ending. But even though his buddy, whose sole job is to be his eyes, is unconscious now thanks to flying debris, Finch is allowing our main character to see, so why was he blind in the first place? All of the adult superheroes that they rescued are fucking useless. They just showed up to be like, hi, we're here, and now they've all been like knocked unconscious. why did we save them? Do we just need something for the extra characters to do? Because you had so many characters, you had fucking spares. Jeremy Scott, is that what happened? I looked at his eyes and slowly rose to my feet, my gaze never wavering. Why did you make him blind? Even when Finch is like, bye, I'm outies, because apparently Finch was smart and decided to teleport away, our main character can still see for some reason. So I guess Finch wasn't prepared to die if this kid didn't turn out to have superpowers. He was just talking a big game, but in reality he's gonna like peace out and hopefully get a more constructive hobby. Somebody is saving them all, and it's somebody who's very quick. And I thought that for sure the brother was gonna turn out to be the hero, but calling it here before they reveal it, it might be Donnie. Alright, now that I have speculated, I'm going to read on, find out. And it's Donnie! Okay, my last minute speculation did prove to be true. Was there enough foreshadowing for it to have been Donnie? I really thought that they were going to go with the brother because the brother was having the same things happen to him that our main character was, but we're sort of discounting him because he's a little brother. And the bad guy kept being like, he will suffer great tragedy, blah, 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 blah. And I'm sure Donnie has too, and we'll find out why. But the little brother seemed like I don't know if better choice is the right word, more obvious choice. Donnie seems so random because he's just one of the super friends. It definitely wasn't foreshadowed enough if it had turned out to be the main character. But I'll keep reading. We're really close to the end here, so I'll keep reading and find out if Donnie is really the one who does all or if he just has like a couple extra powers. I think what kind of bothers me, actually, I'm putting my finger on it better, is the pure neurodivergent character. Like a neurodivergent character who, because of that, is just like so pure that they are Jesus-like. That's a trope that you see a lot, and I think that's what is bothering me about Donnie. Because he's like heroically saving them all, and the main character talks about him being like a pure white light or whatever. And I think that finally put the nail in the coffin of why the Donnie reveal is bothering me, is to have the neurodivergent character who, you know, has the mind of a 5-year-old turn out to be very special and the savior. How do you feel about that trope? I don't love it, but is that a trope that you like? Do you think that it's a damaging trope? Would it be better if we were just able to see neurodivergent characters just being themselves without having to be some sort of special godlike being? Or, I'm thinking of Stephen King. He does this a lot with, like, any character with a disability, really, but especially, like, children. There's, I think, a couple of books with autistic children in them where the autistic child is, like, the special one somehow. So Donnie can create a black hole, which he does. And fortunately, it's a very specialized black hole because it only sucks up the bomb and the debris and all of the energy and doesn't, like, suck up everything. And, of course, Donnie was the one giving our main character his sight because every single character has to be super invested in whether our main character can see at all times. His sight goes blank after Donnie creates the black hole and saves the day, so I'm sure we're meant to wonder, did Donnie die? I really hope he didn't, because, again, that's another trope that I'm completely over. Not only is he the heroic, neurodivergent character, but he is also the sacrificial one. If they kill him, we'll see if that happened. We're on to chapter 33, which is the last chapter, and it's called Summer. The recovery efforts took months. I mean, I should expect so. I should expect more than just months. Your entire town was basically devoured by an explosion and then a black hole, so it seems like it'd be a lot to repair. And of course, Finch has escaped. One of the most wanted men in the world, but nobody knows where he's at right now, so even the book knows that that's super cliched. He'd escaped, of course. Okay, Donnie is gone, but they don't know that he's dead. He's just gone. So he's sort of the Schrodinger's sacrificial hero. Maybe he went into the black hole and found a world where people are nice to him. They had time in these few months to build fucking memorial gardens on the school grounds. I mean, I guess they're superheroes. Maybe they just do everything super fast. Our main character thinks that eventually the town history is going to gloss over Donnie's part in the battle. How? How the hell would they do that? The main character's like, well, the town didn't like Donnie. I think they like him now. He used a super duper awesome black hole power and saved all their lives. Guys, don't panic. The pizza place survived. I feel like this is supposed to be the shawarma scene. They're already planning for their next super sim because of course the town is going to keep doing those. People came to investigate Bentley because of all of his cameras around town, but instead of being like, that's very bad, child, that you did that, they're like, we want to buy all your cameras because we love your cool camera invention. Tiny cameras, never been done before. Oh no, poor Henry. Henry is so fucked in this book. They made Henry special glasses so he can look at them and see for Philip even better. Because fuck Henry and his needing to see where he's going. I guess people just push him everywhere. Forget your independence, Henry. You need to help this other kid see. Oh, now the main character has been having nightmares about bashing his grandfather into a wall repeatedly. At least we get one sentence of, don't worry. He's not a homicidal maniac waiting to happen. He feels bad about that horrible thing. For some reason, we're having this conversation with them, but they're like, well, if you can lift other people into the air with your telekinesis, why not lift yourself so you can fly? And I bet you that Jeremy Scott thinks he's going to have a cool flying towards the camera moment to end his book. No, it doesn't even end with the flying towards the camera scene. They just end on a silly argument about the meaning of the word custodian. Wow. I mean, you guys pretty much already know my thoughts. I don't really need to do a big overall review, but worse than I thought it was going to be. I thought somebody like Jeremy Scott, who spends so much of his time looking at stories, would have some kind of idea of how they should work. The main character is thoroughly hateable and never gets any better. He's a self-centered dick, but it's treated as though, like, of course all of his friends would bend over backwards to make his, like, life easier. Of course he's good at giving the rousing speeches. Of course he's the one who, like, finds out everything and makes the most important plans. Because he's the main character. It's like he's the chosen one without being the chosen one. Like, even though the twist is that he's not really the chosen one, he's treated by everyone in this book as though he is special somehow. And treated by Jeremy Scott as though he is special somehow, when really he's just another little shithead 12-year-old. And the disabilities in this book were completely wasted, and the superpowers were so wasted. Why did you even write a book about superheroes if you're going to use their powers so little? You had the idea for the Super Sims, I bet, and you were like, oh, I want to do some kind of magical LARPing competition. Before any action scene could ever happen, there needed to be at least 2 chapters of talking about it, and lengthy preamble. Read The Cellar, it's more entertaining. The Cellar is so bad that it's good. This is just regular bad. I'm sorry, Jeremy Scott, but you wrote a dud. At least for me. Thank you so much for joining me for this read-along. This feels like it took a million years, but very soon, Jenna Moressi's next book will be coming out. And it'll probably look like fucking Shakespeare compared to this. I don't know, you guys, did you enjoy this read-along? This one was so weird. The Outer Space one. Why can't I remember the name of it? Anyway, even that one felt like it hit a stride after a certain point where the story was going somewhere. This one never felt like it got there until like the last 2 chapters. It was just all boring, meandering, holding pattern. Like, what was the point of the kids going to Central Park and fighting crime? I thought that was going to be like a big deal. They completely dropped the plot point about superheroes maybe being revealed to the world. That might be in the next book. I am not going to read the next book. I guess I can't swear I can't. I will need time to forget what happened in the Ables before I ever read the next book in the series. Thanks again for watching, you guys. Don't forget that when we vote on our next one, which will be sometime after Jenna Moressi's next book, your votes will count for extra if you are a patron. So consider becoming a patron. You'll also get all kinds of exclusive content not seen here on the regular channel, and you'll help me publish my own books so that maybe someday crabby critics will look at them and say how terrible they are. That'll be fun. And of course, to keep up with everything that I'm doing, don't forget to follow me on my social media, links in the doobly-doo. I'll see you guys next time with whatever we're doing next time. Bye! Stop. Patron time. Patrick, Anne Sophie, Callison, Ray, Artemis, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Irene, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, Lisa, and Lennox. I can guarantee that you have never heard a better group of patrons in your entire life. I know because they're my patrons, so I'm an expert on this. Now carry on with your day, citizens. Before everyone runs off, I have one more announcement. I have recently gotten a new patron by the name of Patrick Murphy, and I forgot to give him his own special shout out because I'm a terrible and very forgetful person. But now is the time. Nigel is here. That's the noise you just heard. Patrick is also an author, and he has 2 very cute looking Dinosaur children's books available on Amazon. They will be linked below. Please go check them out. They look really adorable. So thank you, Patrick, for being my patron. Sorry I forgot to give you your personal shout out for so long.